Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Second upload of the day, today on Wednesday, I believe it's the 10th of February. And with the NFL season and playoffs coming to an end, I figured now would be the perfect time for me to release my first mock draft. This is my mock draft 1.0. Usually I make 4 of them during the year, so I'll usually make one now. I'll make one in the beginning of March, I'll make one in mid-March, and then I'll make one right before the draft. Like I'll do one the night before the draft. I'm thinking for the draft, I will probably I may not. I'll certainly make a video after the draft reacting to what I think to the picks and grading picks, but for this is just a more overview mock draft because obviously we don't know with free agency and such. So the ones that I will actually do like right before the draft are probably going to be the most accurate because you'll know free agency and we'll have all the up-to-date information on the prospects. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump right into the mock draft 1.0 for 2021. All right, let's jump right on into this. I use the Draft Network because I think it's the best website. But yeah, I'm probably not too much cutting in this one. I'll probably just fly through these. This shouldn't be too long. So picking first is the Jacksonville Jaguars. For me, this is an absolute no-brainer. This has to be Trevor Lawrence. He is a generational quarterback prospect, and I know that people like to say, oh, Justin Fields beat him. Justin Fields did beat him in a game, but first of all, one game doesn't make a prospect, and second of all, football is a team sport. So I still believe Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in this class, and I don't think it's particularly close. And I think the Jaguars would be happy to have him with Urban Meyer as their first pick. Second pick, I think we're going to see another quarterback here. I think the Jets are certainly going to take a quarterback, though I tend to believe that it's actually going to be Zach Wilson. I think he's the second best quarterback. I think he has Patrick Mahomes type potential. I'm not saying he's going to be Patrick Mahomes, but he reminds me a lot on tape of what I saw from Mahomes coming out of Texas Tech. So I really like Zach Wilson, and yeah, I think he makes a lot of sense to the Jets at number 2. I guess the Jets could go with something else. If they were not going to go quarterback at 2, you'd almost think it has to be a receiver. But the only way for me they would do that is if there's a trade that happens where they get a quarterback because Sam Darnold is not the guy. Let's see, Miami at 3. For me, this absolutely has to be a receiver. And I know here it has them listed 5, 6, 7. So my receiver rankings, first of all, let me throw this out there. The top 3 I think you can rank in any order. And you could be forgiven for that. I think that they're all future receiver ones. I think they all show great potential. Personally, my wide receiver 1 is Jalen Waddle. Then I have Jamar Chase 2 and Devonta Smith 3. However, I don't think that that's what a lot of NFL teams have. I think that the Dolphins are going to go with Devonta Smith. That is my thought process. Not many receivers have won the Heisman recently. Smith did win the Heisman Trophy this year. You pair him with a quarterback he's very used to, with Tua. And I just think the Dolphins almost have to take receiver, and I think they're going to go with the guy who's super hyped right now in Devonta Smith. All right, Atlanta Falcons. For me, this absolutely needs to be a quarterback. Matt Ryan is getting older, and you pick up a guy who you can sit for a year. And this is going to be my pick that people are probably going to go, whoa, that seems rare, because Justin Fields is on the board. I'm going to go Trey Lance. I think he fits the system better. I think Trey Lance is, he has a bit of a rushing threat, but I think he's more of the pocket passer that Atlanta likes to use. And I think he's the perfect guy to sit for a year behind Matt Ryan and then take over the year after. So I really like that. I think Trey Lance makes a lot of sense there. It would be a surprise to see 3 quarterbacks go off and Justin Fields not. And I don't think I would say it's a bad pick if they took Fields. I think you could take Fields at number 2, and I wouldn't say it's a bad pick. Just who you want in your offense. So that's my pick. Might change in the future, but for now I'm going to stick with that. For the Bengals, they need offensive line help, and there's been a lot of discussion lately between these two, between Penei Sewell and Rashaan Slater. Here's how I look at it. I think Rashaan Slater is the better plug-and-play guy right now. I think Rashaan Slater could compete for Pro Bowl All-Pros first season. He's that good. Reminds me a little bit of Tristan Wirfs from last year. But Penei Sewell, with his athleticism, definitely has the higher ceiling. However, I think the Bengals are going to take the guy with the higher ceiling. I think that the Bengals know they're probably not a playoff team next year. I really liked what Joe Burrow did before he got hurt, but I do not think the Bengals are a playoff team. Therefore, I think you take the higher potential player, the guy who I think will be better down the line, and for me that is Penei Sewell out of Oregon. Next up is the Eagles, and the Eagles have a lot of needs, no question about that. However, I tend to think they're going to take a wide receiver. I don't think the Eagles probably take a quarterback, even though I think Wentz will leave. I think they're going to give Jalen Hurts a year to see what he has, even though I'm not a big Jalen Hurts guy. I don't think he's a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. I think they're going to give him a year, see what he's got, and then potentially address quarterback next year if needed. So I think they go out there and they get Jalen Hurts a weapon. And I think Jamar Chase is who I'm going to take here for the Eagles. I think Jalen Waddle's the best receiver in the class. I think the rest of the league sees him as the number 3 receiver in the class. So I think it's more likely that Jamar Chase goes there to the Eagles. All right, number 7. For the longest time, I was giving the Lions a quarterback, but I am not going to do that here because Jared Goff is a thing now. They traded for Jared Goff. They apparently really like him. So I am going to give them a receiver because I think that's the next biggest need for them. And I think this is a perfect fit. I think you throw Jalen Waddle there. You are going to lose, most likely, Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones Jr. in free agency. So I think it makes a lot of sense to take such a high ceiling receiver, a guy who I think could be even better than Tyreek Hill in that mold in the future. Carolina now at number 8, and I think this is a no-brainer for Carolina. Justin Fields is still on the board. I think you go get him, no questions asked. I'm taking Justin Fields there at number 8. I think that's quite a fall. I think that'd probably be the story, is Fields falling to number 8, and I think Carolina's really happy with that. You have Bridgewater for the year if you need to sit Fields. I don't think Fields needs to sit for a year the way a guy like Trey Lance might need to, but I think that you give him, you let Teddy Bridgewater go for a little bit, and then you eventually plug in Justin Fields when you think he's ready. Number 9 is an interesting one because obviously Denver needs edge badly, but I don't think there's an edge guy who is worth taking here. So I'm going to go cornerback for them, and I'm going to take the guy who I think is the best corner in the draft, and that's Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain, he does everything well at the cornerback position. Good cover. He understands zone and man coverages really, really well. So I'm going to take him at the number 9 overall pick. Number 10 now is Dallas, and I think there's a lot of interesting talks here. The big one, obviously, is whether Dak signs or not. I think biggest need for Dallas probably is interior defensive line, but that to me is something you address in the second round. I don't think you take an IDL at 10 here, especially with who's available. Tight end is tempting. It's tempting to give them Kyle Pitts because I think it's a great weapon, but I don't think it's their biggest need. Again, edge, not in love with any edge guys there. So I'm actually going to go back-to-back corners. I'm going to have them take Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech. I think Caleb Farley is really close to Patrick Surtain. They're 1 and 1A. I really like Caleb Farley. I think he's a great pick at 10. And he's a good corner for the Dallas Cowboys to get. Next up is the Giants, and I think the Giants would love to have taken one of those 3 wide receivers if they fell, but they didn't in this particular mock, and I'm not ready for Rashad Bateman to go off the board here. 2 things tempt me with the Giants. They need edge badly. They need edge really badly, but they also need linebacker. And I just don't think there's an edge player who's good enough to take here. So I'm going to give them Micah Parsons out of Penn State. I think it's an interesting selection. It's probably not one that you see a lot, but I really like it. And I think Micah Parsons there makes a whole ton of sense. In the Giants, he can slide in as that outside linebacker, does everything pretty well. And I actually think that one makes quite a bit of sense. All right, 49ers here are next, and you got a bit of a conundrum here. You're not going to take a corner, I don't believe. I like J.C. Horn. Don't think he's going here. You still have Rashaan Slater, who's really good, but they don't need tackle. But I still think you address the offensive line. I'm going to go Elijah Vera Tucker. He's a guy with guard flexibility. I think he fits their scheme really well. He's clearly the best interior offensive lineman in this class, and I'm going to say that the 49ers pick him up at number 12. Number 13, this one is a no-brainer, falls right into the lap of the Chargers. Now, I know there's been a lot of Kyle Pitts talk here, but I think when Rashaan Slater's on the board, you just can't pass him up. So I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. I think the Los Angeles Chargers will take Rashaan Slater. Now, I actually think we're going to see back-to-back tackles here. I think that the Vikings are going to go tackle. I think they would have loved if Rashaan Slater fell one more spot, but he didn't. So they'll settle for Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech. Really good tackle. And I think he'll work really well on that offensive line. And it's a really good pick for the Vikings. Up next is my favorite team, the New England Patriots. And maybe I just really badly want this to happen. But I'm going to give them Kyle Pitts. I think he's the closest thing to Gronk out of the draft that you're going to find. And he can line up as a receiver. He can line up as a tight end. He's very versatile. And he's just a great pass catcher. Just an absolutely great pass catcher. And I think this makes a lot of sense. And I hope that he falls to 15 so the Patriots can snag him up. At 16, you have an interesting conundrum. You have the Arizona Cardinals, who need edge really badly. They also need corner, but I'm not ready for... You know what? Yeah, we're going to give him J.C. Horn. I think it might be a tiny bit early for him, but I'm actually okay with the pick. Cardinals need corner, so I'm going to go with J.C. Horn there. Oakland Raiders. This is another interesting one. I'm going to give them Kwity Paye. I think they need edge very badly, and I think Kwity Paye makes the most sense here. Edge rusher out of Michigan. Not much to say about him. He's really good, and he'll add to that defensive front for the Las Vegas Raiders. Miami Dolphins now are on the board, and I think this is a hard one because you'd love to go running back. But I think you have the depth in this draft that you can get a running back in the second round. That's truly what I believe. And I think there's a guy on this board who they would really want. And that is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker from Notre Dame. I think he fits really well with Miami. He's another piece to add to that defense that Brian Flores is building. You address the offense at number 3, and you address the defense at 18. At number 19, we have the Washington football team. And for me, this is a quarterback. This is Mac Jones. Mac Jones, my comp for him is Kirk Cousins. I think he's got a high floor, but not a particularly high ceiling. But I like him. I think he'd be very good in that spot. Go and learn a little bit from Alex Smith. He may be ready to start day one, though. He may be one of the guys who's ready to start day one. But yeah, I really like that pick. Moving on to Chicago, and I think I'm going to take an offensive lineman here. Yeah, I'm going to take a tackle. We're going to go with Jalen Mayfield, who I think is just a little bit better than Sam Cosmi in the Bears scheme. So I think for sure you take Jalen Mayfield there with the number 20 pick. And then at 21, the Colts, I think it's back-to-back offensive linemen. I think you take Sam Cosmi. Really high ceiling player out of Texas, and you really badly need a new tackle after you lost Anthony Costanzo to retirement. Jumping ahead to the Tennessee Titans, and I'm not really sure what I want with the Titans because, you know, they want edge. Kwity Paye's off the board. I think, yeah, I'm going to give them Azeez Ojulari because I think he fits that 3-4 really, really, really well. Not the best edge rusher at this spot, but I think he is a perfect scheme fit, and I think he's a really good player for them to take at number 22. All right, that brings the Jets to the clock with pick number 23. You addressed your quarterback need at 2. With Zach Wilson, now you got to get him a weapon. And I think that is Rashad Bateman, wide receiver from Minnesota. For me, clearly the number 4. He's not in the same level as those top 3 guys, but for me, he's better than guys like Marshall, Rondale Moore, and Kadarius Toney. So I think that one makes quite a bit of sense there. Now for the Steelers, I'm tempted to give them Tevin Jenkins because he's been a high riser lately, but I don't think that that's what I'm going to do. The Steelers have they have a lot of issues, but I think I'm going to give them Zaven Collins. Might seem like a weird pick to some of you, but I really like Zaven Collins. I think he can be a perfect linebacker to play next to Devin Bush. And I think you have a really good linebacker tandem going forward for the future. All right, so now we have the Jags on the clock for their second pick. And this one's an interesting one. You wonder if they would take a shot at a high ceiling guy, but I actually tend to think that they won't. I think, you know, there's talk Gregory Rousseau here. I think Tevin Jenkins. I think they need offensive line help very badly. Jenkins has been a high riser lately. People really like what they've seen out of him after the season. And so I think he makes a lot of sense there. Browns at number 26. They could use linebacker. And I am going to give them linebacker. I'm going to give them Nick Bolton. He's a classic linebacker out of Missouri. I think that that's their biggest need. I think they draft for need there. And I think that one actually makes a lot of sense. I like it quite a bit. I think it's a good pick. They love Zaven Collins, but obviously he went off the board 2 picks earlier to the Steelers. Now you got the Ravens at 27, who could use edge. They could use offensive line. But I think that you've got a guy here in Gregory Rousseau. He's falling. I don't think super highly of him, but his potential is just too high. I think that the Baltimore Ravens will take Rousseau, and I think he fits. He can probably sit for a year or just play certain snaps for a year and then jump in the future. All right, so the New Orleans Saints are on the board now at 28, and I'm going to do something interesting here. I'm actually going to go receiver. Now hear me out, I know the Saints have secondary issues, but there's no corners or linebackers who I like here, and I'm not going to give them a safety in the first round, even though that's been popular lately. So I'm going to give them Kadarius Toney. He's a really great weapon. He's got one of the more fun tapes that you'll ever watch. But yeah, I like him. I think Sean Payton could really find a way to incorporate him into the offense. Green Bay Packers, I think that they just have too big of a need at corner for them to not take a corner here. And I'm going to give them Asante Samuel Jr., who I don't know if he's a first-round talent, but what I do know is that I am giving him to the Packers in the first round because they badly need corner. If a guy like J.C. Horn is here at this point, it's a no-brainer. But you guys watched the game against the Bucs. They need cornerback so badly. And Asante Samuel Jr. is not a bad player. I think he'll be pretty good. All right, the Buffalo Bills now are on the board, and I think this is a little early for an offensive lineman, so I'm actually going to give them edge, a guy who has fallen in this draft, and I'm going to give them Joseph Osai. Seems like an interesting pick. Not sure about that one, but they could use a little help on the edge here. He's getting older. And I think Joseph Osai is a really good player, and I think he's an absolute steal if he falls down to 30. All right, so last two picks here. At 31, you have Kansas City. And Kansas City, I think, would like to get another wide receiver. And so I'm going to give them Terrence Marshall. He's a little bit of a different wide receiver than they have. I'm going to look, I forget his frame. He's 6'3", bigger guy. The Chiefs have Tyreek and Mecole Hardman, who are deep threat speed guys. Terrence Marshall is a guy who can win jump balls, and I think it makes a lot of sense for the Chiefs to get a different type of receiver, just adding to that dominant offense. All right, last pick in the first round. This one makes a lot of sense to me. The Bucs need defensive line help. They're going to be losing a couple guys. They're probably losing Shaq Barrett. So I'm going to give them Jalen Phillips, the edge rusher out of Miami. And so this is a quick overview over the draft, the mock draft that I put. If you guys have any disagreements, please let me know. I'm sure you will. Mock drafts are always very different. But yeah, you guys can pause at any point if you wanted to look through what my mock draft looks like. And that's going to be my mock draft 1.0 for the 2021 NFL Draft. All right, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I love doing mock drafts for football. That's just the first of at least 3, but probably 4 that are going to come out during this year, including one that I will do the day before the draft, and I'll kind of score myself off of that as to how many I get right. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Comment if you have any disagreements in the mock draft. I'm sure people will. Or if there's any other video ideas you have that you'd really like me to do. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and I will see you in the video tomorrow. Have a good one.